Hello, everybody, and thanks for clicking into another edition of Sit Down with Ed Brown. Today, we've got the always controversial Mr. Todd Standing with us. Hey, Todd, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How's it up in Canada? You having a good time up there?
Yeah, we're getting snow, which we love because we can go snowboarding and skiing and snowmobiling and cross-country skiing and all the stuff that we love. Makes us Canadian.
Well, good. Well, down here, we don't have any snow here in Southern California right now, so that means I can drive, and, so we can do the things that they like to do here in Southern California, which is cause traffic backups and all that good stuff. So everybody's happy. So, Todd, I want to start this off because we're going to touch on kind of a touchy subject, and we have to, or I wouldn't be doing my job and nobody would listen to me, right?
Yeah.
How do you respond when, and I've seen your video, by the way, and I've seen your documentary, and I want to say thank you for that, first of all, but I've seen it in a whole new light. When you watch the video, it does come across a lot different than the photos that came out, but how do you respond to people who call them Muppets or whatever, I mean, how do you feel about that?
I don't really care about what people's opinions are. Even back in the day, I remember I have some photographs that are really bad because I took them. I'm an expert with my video camera. I know how to set it. I know the neutral density filters and all the aperture settings. I'm an expert. But when I was out, it's called my Video 4 expedition, and I was filming a female. Water, I was in my ghillie suit, and the reason I got out there was it was a snowstorm, and all the snow now was melting. Like it went from -10 to +20 the next day, and nothing but sun. So I'm under a pine tree, and the snow's melting like crazy, so obviously water's dripping down. Water dripped down all over my camera, and the lens was unusable. So I pulled out my camera that I was going to use only for nighttime, and it was set for nighttime, and this was actually a photo camera, like to take photographs with. I couldn't take video with this camera. So I pulled it all set for night, and there's a Sasquatch there. You don't sit and wait and dick around with your settings and all that stuff. You just take pictures. So I took pictures of a Sasquatch in direct sunlight, which if you're a videographer or a photographer, direct sunlight photographs are extremely difficult. You have to put filters up, otherwise the subject looks terrible.
Sure.
And I snapped those photographs, and they're controversial, and of course they're controversial because the Sasquatch's skin looks poor and the colors look orangey. She looks more orangutan, and she's not. But what I knew I had real video that was of that same Sasquatch, and the video looks amazing. People are just impressed with the video, and if you have a problem with that, I mean, the video looks brilliant to me. It's clearly a living, breathing individual. But it's a Sasquatch though, and when you work as hard as I do, man, I risked my life. I bust my ass. It was so hard. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. I hadn't slept in 4 days to get out there walking through the most terrible, horrible backcountry conditions. And I failed so many times. And when you're there after having done all that work, you just start popping pictures and don't worry about it. And when I came back, I was so proud of those pictures. Even my colleagues were saying, well, they're pretty bad. Why don't you just put the good ones out there? I'm like, no, put everything. Like, I don't care. Because even for me, it's about the journey. In the years to come, as this gets proven, which we are here right now proving it, that we're so far ahead with this, it's blowing my mind what's happening right now. But when it's all proven, people will go back and go, well, how did it feel to put up pictures that weren't very good and have them chastised? But the point is, I put everything out there. I let the truth fall into place. I mean, how much heat has the Patterson film taken? I was at a point where I thought the Patterson film was fake. The evidence was tremendous for how it was probably faked. And in the end, right now, as I know, I'd like to say Jeff has taught me, my colleague Jeff and John, they've taught me, even Lestrade, have a little bit of doubt in your mind. I'm sorry, fuck doubt. There's no way you could fake that film. It's impossible.
Right.
I'm a tracker with decades of experience tracking. I've seen those tracks that were cast from that Sasquatch. There's no bloody hell way. In 1967, they knew there was a mid-tarsal joint in the foot. The weight's perfect. The tracks are perfectly organic. That Sasquatch is absolutely real. When something becomes the point that is, even like Sherlock Holmes says, whatever is impossible is therefore not possible. We are left with the truth. It's impossible that they made those tracks, that they faked those tracks. that they have a joint that they knew about. They didn't know about mid-tarsal joints in chimpanzees until 20 years later. How did these, you know, men, horseback riders from Northern California with no educational experience, you just can't do it. So it's just a lesson to me moving forward about the trials and tribulations that people will talk about, you know, when they make a movie, when this is all said and done, about the stuff that legitimate researchers like myself had to go through. And the truth is, I have no fear of the truth, and I will just simply put it out there. Of course I have bad photographs, but the haters want to focus on them and make a big deal about them. And I'm not worried about it. Bring it, because it's... the other thing too is, what I'm very proud of, and I talked about this in one video that's not very popular though, is because I did that, because I adhered to the truth and put those photographs out there, Duke University contacted me and said, hey, can we buy these photographs for you? Because they were digital photographs. And I was like, sure, you can have a look at them. We want to research them. So they offered me money. I was like, no, I don't want any money. Just take the photos. So anyways, they came back to me and they said, we have to pay you. Here's $5,000. We're going to use these photos with this new technology we have that we're selling to the American government. And I went, oh, what's that technology? They called thermal digital pixelization. Since that photograph was taken in direct sunlight, and there's actually snow on the ground, they used the snow and the refractory index of the sun to digitally find a way to make temperature of that video for footage. They came back to me and said, oh, and by the way, that's not a hoax. You get perfect fingerprinting, digital thermal fingerprinting from that face. And they showed it to me. I couldn't believe it, like around the eyes. You could actually see breath coming out of her mouth. So that photograph that people have problems with, since I had the integrity of still putting it out there, Duke University has proven that photograph is real. And once that technology is released, right now they're using it, Homeland Security bought it, and they're using it as a secondary backup to another program that's recognizing faces as they go through airports. Thermal digital pixelization is their second backup that they may go to at one point. But once that technology becomes public in 10 years, I mean, there's no hoaxing that. You can't hoax the heat signature of a face.
Right.
And it's perfect. Even they came back and said there's some weird things going on there because this primate has thicker fat patterns around its cheeks, like something that's designed to better sustain cold.
Sure.
Right? Thicker fat patterns around the nose, deeper set eye pockets that give off, you know. But anyways, there was a digital fingerprint that they just told me. It's like trying to fake a fingerprint. And of course, I didn't know about this technology. I couldn't have gone out and been faking it.
Right.
So in that sense, and many times, this is always the end result with me. The truth always sets me free. So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
Right.
The fear would make me stop doing stuff like that. And believe me, if you knew who I was and the crap that I go through and what I have to do to make this discovery happen, don't have a lot of fear. My fear is, what I fear is not having this species recognized. What I fear is that we fail and damage the species to the point of possibly no return. That's what scares me, is ignorance and lies. That scares me, and that's what I stand up against.
Sure. Good answer. And I mean, and I agree with you. Who cares what everybody else thinks? Because it's not there are a lot of people out there who do care what other people think, but it's refreshing to find somebody who doesn't. Let me tell you that. Now, when I've watched your documentary, and it's Discovering Bigfoot is the documentary. Tell people where they can find it real quick so that more people can see it, because it is. I'm telling you, it's fascinating. I loved it. Claudia and I sat and watched it. It was 2 hours, and we loved every second of it. It's actually really, really good.
Yeah, thank you. I worked so hard. You know, I put everything, the best of everything I've ever done there. As you and Claudia know, I have, over 800 hours worth of footage that I've been filming Bigfoot and interactions with Bigfoot. So I took just the best I've ever done in every way, shape, or form and put it up there. So I am really proud of that work. And it's the distribution company has put it everywhere. Like, it's on Amazon, it's on iTunes, Vudu, Vimeo, all these websites I don't know. It was on video on demand all over the place. So they did an amazing job of putting it out there. So, and if you can't do all those things, then it's going on Netflix in a couple weeks, and it'll be on DVD in a couple weeks. And the Netflix deal is huge. That's the deal. This is all Discovery Channel, History Channel have been working with me for years. It's been taking me a long time to put this documentary together. So since I had the integrity of waiting till my documentary was good and fighting to get everything together appropriately, all these other shows, and I won't name any names, but these fake Bigfoot shows really destroyed the market. Right. So I wanted to put this show up on Destination America, Discovery Channel USA. Zach Beher, the president of History Channel, is a friend of mine, wanted to put it up. But they'd done all these fake shows, and now the public's sick of it. They don't want to see any more crap. And now, since I waited and showed integrity and did it the right way, nobody wants the show anymore. So I'm left with a show that you saw, Ed, that's amazing. Right. Like, there's no Bigfoot documentary out there. Even the Survivor Man Bigfoots, which are spectacular episodes. I love those episodes. Sure. These are better because in Survivor Man Bigfoot, we're going out for 3 days in an episode. I'm out there for years, a decade in some spots. Right. So the best of what I have, and when you go out alone, hunters know you always get your best results when you're alone. And so the best of any Survivor Man Bigfoots are great, but discovering Bigfoot is just a whole other level of spectacular amazement. And I got nothing for it until this little company called Netflix, which is not a little company. They have a $6 billion budget next year. Is very excited to play this documentary. Awesome. And they made me an offer that blew my mind for part 2. And my agent said, "Oh, no. We're waiting for it to play on Netflix." And then, I'm like, well, this is a huge offer. Why don't we roll with this? Like, I could make another I get excited because making another Bigfoot documentary means I get to go do research. I'm not doing research right now because there's no money and I have to go work a regular job. Sure. The deal Netflix offered me was, I'm doing research. I'm paying people to work with me for a year or two. But my agent said, your documentary is getting rave reviews. People are loving this. And even Netflix was like, yeah, you should wait because Netflix believes I'm going to start pulling numbers. They're going to make the numbers they offered me quadruple. And that means even possibly in the millions. Wow. If that happens, the discovery of Bigfoot will transpire. It's all about money now. I'll put thermal drones in the air. I'll follow them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The technology exists. It just takes money to finish this. Nobody anywhere does any research without money. We wouldn't know anything about gorillas or chimpanzees or orangutans if it wasn't for the Leakey Foundation. Right. So it's an unfortunate thing, but money is tools. And if people watch this on Netflix and they continue to love it as they have been, people are loving this. Sure. Like I get... The ratings everywhere are 5 stars, except for when a hater comes along, and the hater sounds like he didn't even watch the show. Right. Like, this is bull crap, and there's no new footage in there, which is a lie. Well, yeah, there is. New footage. In fact, what kind of bothers me is people say, well, it's mostly old footage. I show the old Sasquatch footage, but I mean, everything that happens with Jeff Meldrum and John Bitternagel, every speech I make, like, when you actually think about it, there's only about 10 minutes of old footage, of old Sasquatch footage. Everything is new. The apple's getting taken. Yeah, that was altercation cool. Where I fall over and like, is that not new? It's all new. Yeah. So really, in truth, it's 95% new footage. So I guess that's the rumor going around right now. Don't watch it. It's all old crap. It's not. Well,
let me correct that myself because I did watch the video. I did watch the documentary and I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, I really was. And I guess that leads to my next question because the only question I have on all the footage is why do they look so different? Because you've got the 2 that we've seen before, and then you've got the third one now that's in the video. And I don't know if I don't want to give anything away or whatever. I don't know how much I can say, but and they all look so different. Why is that? Why do they look so different?
I don't think they do. I've had what I've done is the nose and the cheekbones are the same, and the mouths are the same. What you're seeing in video 4, I believe, is a female, a young female. So she doesn't have a big amount of facial hair. Video 5 is a guy who not only has facial hair, but he's got a nice sagittal crest. And a primatologist colleague of mine told me some female gorillas don't have sagittal crests, and some rare female gorillas have a sagittal crest, and all males do. Right. And that's actually the temporalis muscle on top of the head. So with the female in video 4, she doesn't seem to have that. I'm a low angle from her, right? So she might have a sagittal bump and you just can't see it.
Sure.
Because
sure.
I'm way down from her.
Yeah, you are
The-
definitely
the
looking
video-
up at her. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. At a huge angle. The male that you're seeing, I'm on ground level with him. Like he's maybe 5% grade above me, which is nothing.
Right.
And he's a male, he's got a beard, but his mouth matches up exactly to hers. Like he's got this look in his mouth that's wide, and it's
Right.
even the same width. His nose is the same. And then you talk about video 8, the one where the Sasquatch is looking down at me pissed, like blinking really fast. Jet black face, right?
Yes,
What you can't
that's
see,
the new one. Yeah.
you can't see the beard on the side that matches the video 5 beard, the beard that he has underneath him, which matches the beard. He seems to have a little bit of male pattern balding like chimpanzees and gorillas can have, but he's got a sagittal crest that matches video 5 exactly.
Right.
Same sagittal crest. So they really are minor variations, and I think if you pulled them all out and put them all together, their bodies are the same. You know, just some are bigger built, thicker, others are different ages, but
Sure.
I really don't see that since from what I've videotaped compared to what I've seen with my own eyes. Like I saw after I filmed video 8, that dark Sasquatch who's blinking. That's the one Jeff Meldrum looks at and says, "I can't look at that and not feel like I'm
Right.
looking into the eyes of a living creature."
Yeah, the black
which
devil,
I profoundly
yeah.
agree, because video 4 Sasquatch, that female, she's looking for me. She knows I'm down there. So she's got this blank look of like a deer looking for the
Right.
wolves, right? And she looks very blank and unexpressed. She's taking her head slowly out. So that's her motive in that moment. The big guy in video 5, he's been sitting out there all day. He's a day watcher, and this is what he does. He sits there for 8-10 hours a day, and he's bored out of his mind, relaxed. He has no idea that I'm there, and he's just chill. Couldn't be more chill, half asleep even, I would say. So he looks different. And then the guy in video 8, he is pissed off at me. He is looking down on me, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he's looking down at me like, "You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You played a trick. You played a game on us," and he was pissed off.
Yeah.
So you can see that because he's like blinking like really fast.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the one you
Right.
call the Black Devil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
he looks like and I didn't want to say that, and I did it, and it's in the documentary. Just because so many places I've done research are called the Devil's Footstool, the Devil's Cliff, the Devil's Gulch, and it's usually
Right.
because there's Bigfoot there, and people just call them that.
Sure. Well, let
And
me
after
tell
seeing
you,
video,
it's fitting. It's fitting, right? It's because when I'm looking at that thing, looking back at me, because I'm, as if I'm there, I'm
Yeah.
like, holy cow, this thing's like, what the hell is that? I mean, I do question that. I'm looking at it going, that's odd. It doesn't, I don't know. And people are going to say what they want to say. It's going to happen. You know that. I know that. We all know that. But I look at that and I don't see makeup. I don't see fictitious creatures. This is something looking at me that looks huge. And and you can see the ear, and it's. I'm not gonna get. I don't want to give any more, but I was impressed. I'll just say that I'm impressed with the footage.
it's hard for me to look at that footage and not get goosebumps and chills. 'Cause,
Sure.
holy crap! And you see the zoom. I had 50 times optical zoom. If I only had 20 times optical zoom, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
You'd see a dark figure there that was crap. But
Right.
that high, and not only that, but that camera, it's so amazing the way it zoomed into that dark spot and then lit it up,
Right.
right? It bumped up the gain.
Yeah, it
So
was-
a dark figure, when that gain bumped up, I tell you, I wanted to throw my camera on the ground and go, ah! Half of me wanted to do that. The other half of me is like, hold your ground, you son of a bitch,
Yeah,
because
right.
he's right there. He's looking at you. You know what I mean? And right now I'm thinking about it, I have goosebumps, especially because I know what happened after. When there was no more battery power and I couldn't film anything,
Right.
you think I just went home? I went back up that hill. And I call that group of Sasquatch the Wild Bunch because they do not back down from me.
Right.
And I moved towards them, and what happened after that was horrifying. But they are an amazing, amazing group of primates, and they act a lot like gorillas and chimpanzees. They can be aggressive. They have a hierarchy in the group, and beat the crap out of me in as gentle a way as they could without killing me. And but yeah, I feel like that was a level where I submitted to them, and they've given me better acceptance now. Now I can do stuff with that group like it's unbelievable, because they really accept me as sort of a part-time outsider.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I'm grateful for it, and I'll explain all this stuff in another documentary or in a book or some damn thing.
Right.
It's so much detail, but they're such an amazing intelligent species, and from my perspective, people are like, well, how could this discovery not be done? And you know what? Every year, they blow me away to the point where it's always me saying, no wonder we haven't found them. Oh my God, they do that? No wonder we haven't found them. And it's that miracle that just pushes me, because they're so, as advanced and as incredible as we are in technology, they're that good in the wilderness.
Sure.
Like people, yeah, and you have no idea, when you have real intelligence and power in the wilderness, you know the way the birds move, and that means something. You know every day when the sun comes up, the wind's going to shift this way, and you need to get in the right spot so you have the wind gauge. Their life, like their first notion in every movement, is to have wind gauge and move safely. And you can't even imagine, they know every bird chirp sound, what it means, and every gopher sound. They're even just finding out now that little marmots make certain chirps, and they mean certain things. The Sasquatch have known that forever. They know what bears do, how they move. So you can't, to sneak up on a Sasquatch, you have to beat all of nature.
Right.
You have,
right.
You're talking about the apex species, and even like mountain lions don't do this. And mountain lions are brilliant and amazing, exceptional. Bears are very smart. People don't give them credit. And even as smart as these deer are super smart. I mean, if they're not smart, don't do the right thing, they get killed, murdered horribly, torn, shreds by bears and mountain lions if they're not smart.
Right.
And Sasquatch are just so far above all that stuff. Like great human hunters go out, where I live, really good hunters will go out and take a week or a month or sometimes fail to get an elk. A Sasquatch will wake up in the morning and yawn and go, I'm going to go get me an elk today, this morning, right now. That's how good they are. Right. They have no trouble. They live in tremendous abundance. They can go get an elk or a deer. They can outrun a deer. They can make a deer run in a certain direction right towards a Sasquatch. If the Sasquatch steps out, breaks its neck, smashes its head over with a rock. Like, they have abundance. They're amazing, these creatures.
Well, as much time as you've spent with them, and I've often wondered that myself, you hear a lot, how do they hunt? What kind of hunters are they? I've always felt, and you can tell me if I'm right, wrong, whatever, but I've always felt that they are kind of an ambush predator. They hide in one spot when something comes through, and they can, and I think they intelligently hide in one spot. They see a herd deer coming, they get in front of them and they wait. When they get there, they grab one. Is that the case, or?
Even more so, I'd say I've seen them do it to another level, where they'll scare the deer in a certain direction towards a Sasquatch that's been waiting, right?
Sure.
So I know a hunter in Montana I worked with. He met the Sasquatch and started to see them because he couldn't understand why the elk were always running towards him. Every time he'd go out there, he'd just shoot an elk, and it was so easy. He wanted a deer, and the deer were charging at him. And then he realized the Sasquatch liked him, and they wanted to see him shoot the deer, so they were making the deer run at him.
Wow.
And he's like, I had no other explanation. He'd sit there and he'd gut the deer, and the Sasquatch would come and watch him. He called me up and said, you won't believe the stuff that's happening out there. And I said, that sounds crazy. I go out there, I witnessed it happen. I couldn't believe it. Like, you could see Sasquatch making sounds and scaring the deer right down to where the hunter was with his gun. So I think they're at such an incredible level, and it's just, I've seen Sasquatch track down an elk in the snow, walk, like I've seen tracks of the Sasquatch following an elk. Just kept, the elk was running for its life. You can't outrun a Sasquatch. It ran down an elk. Like bears, wolves don't do that. They give up.
Right.
When an elk starts running for its life, you just give up. Not a Sasquatch, though. This single Sasquatch tracked down and ran down this elk. I followed it for like 30 kilometers. The elk actually collapsed. Its lungs it was minus 30 out. Its lungs actually blew from running that amount of time. Fell on the ground. Sasquatch picked it up, brought it home.
Wow.
They're so freaking amazing. And it's hard for me to believe these things, except I have to believe it because I've seen it.
Right.
I've videotaped it. I've been there. I've witnessed it. That's a Sasquatch trackway chasing an elk, and there's the spot where the elk fell down. I've seen individuals, your lungs will explode in cold temperatures after running for a long time, eventually the capillaries can't handle the freezing,
Right.
and they'll actually slowly burst. And I saw an elk having done that, and the Sasquatch would pick up the elk and walk away with it.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
like incredible, incredible creatures. Like we're watching movies about Batman and Superman and all these X-Men, and we have a real life superhero, and that's what I feel about these creatures.
Yeah.
They're just so
I'm guilty.
freaking amazing.
I'm guilty. I love those movies, so I'm guilty. You know,
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to give anything away, and I have a lot of respect for Dr. Meldrum. I think he's a great guy. You know, he definitely knows the stuff. You know, and I definitely don't want to put any words in his mouth. But it appears as though he had a sighting while he's with you. Again, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I mean, what was the set that up for us if you don't mind?
Well, what's awesome was Dr. Meldrum didn't know anything. He thought I was controversial, like everybody says I'm so controversial. So I invited him to come out in the field.
You are, but that's okay. It's okay to be controversial. It's okay.
Sure. So I invite him out in the field, and I'm driving him nuts because I'm showing him these tree breaks and these tree structures and things that Sasquatch do, and he's sick of this stuff. He's been inundated with it. But other things are happening as, you know, there's sounds that are going on, and he can't quite hear them because he has a lot of forgiveness for sounds because he's a city boy. Sure. In the wilderness where I'm from, and when there's no wind, zero wind, nothing falls and makes a sound without a reason. And we learn and study these sounds constantly when we're out of the bush. So he's hearing these sounds he doesn't think anything of. Sasquatch are following us around. And I talk about that in the documentary. So anyways, we start doing some things. He starts seeing some pretty profound evidence. He starts getting pretty impressed. And then the very last day, finally, that he's actually the last night, I do an interview with him right before we have a Sasquatch encounter. And he's like, yeah, I was very impressed, but, you know, unfortunately, things didn't go great. And then an hour later, we're sitting around base camp, and a chirp sound is heard. It sounds like a saw-wheat owl. And I'm recording that, and as soon as that happens, I go, oh, we're going to have an encounter. And Jeff sits up and goes, pardon me? And actually, Dr. Bindernagel had just arrived. Yeah. And so they all sit up, and I put them all in position, and I go, okay, he's moving over here, And of course, they still think, is this guy crazy? Or can he really hear what's going on? And then I get up with a colleague of mine, we walk over, live interact with it, where it's like smashing and crashing around in the bush and making sounds. It was amazing. The Sasquatch was showing, he wanted to show how tough he was. He wanted to show us, you know, kind of intimidate us, which should have been very intimidating, and it was, and it was a younger Sasquatch, so I let him do it. I know who the Sasquatch is. It's just new people, so he's acting really intimidating. Jeff was blown away by what he had witnessed. Even John heard some of it, and John doesn't hear well at all. But at one point, it was getting too aggressive, so we backed off, sat back down. Jeff filmed a little bit of it. And then I was talking with John Bindernagel about what had just happened, and Jeff was looking in the spot where he just heard what was clearly a Sasquatch. I mean, no animal, and there was like 3 of them. No 3 animals are going to approach you by a roaring fire at night and bust logs and smash, you know what I mean? It was primate sounds. So, and then he had his eyewitness accounting and had to leave. And as Jeff says, he fortuitously had to leave the next day. He told me he saw the Sasquatch kind of down by a creek. So he went home. And the next day I went looking, I couldn't find any tracks by the creek, but I found tracks in a different spot. And now that trackway, so I saw Jeff Meldrum a month later. I didn't speak to him at all, not one phone call. I had my wife speak to him to say, Todd's coming to see you in a week. He doesn't want to talk to you. And then you saw what happened in the documentary.
Sure. That
trackway that he told me he didn't tell me to go there, that I found from a Sasquatch I did not see, matched up exactly with what he saw. Right. So at the end of it, we sit there and go, you know, that's far, far beyond coincidence, you know. And I don't need to put words in his mouth, but I'll tell you, 99% convinced he saw a Sasquatch.
Right. Now,
and the skeptics are going to say, oh, Todd just had his buddy out there in the bush, just like he did with Les Stroud, and just like he did all those other times. He's just got some guy. You know what? There are bears, there are black bears, grizzly bears, and mountain lions in that wilderness. And if you were out there, you would shut your bloody mouth real quick.
Right.
Because there's nothing out there. You are in the backcountry, middle of nowhere, and it's survival of the fittest. You don't hardly see the elk or deer because they're terrified, because they're constantly being killed by predators that are amazing, incredibly stealthful. If you went around walking around in the bush in a Sasquatch costume at night, you would die.
Right.
Like a bear would come and snag you. It'd be the equivalent of having a fish bleeding in the water, jiggling it around. That's what you would be like in the wilderness where I live. So if you're a little fish jiggling in the water, a shark's going to come eat you. I guarantee you. A mountain lion's going to pick up your scent and see how stupid you are in the bush. Because human beings, even if we move stealthily in the bush, we still sound loud and ridiculous. You know, a bear's going to pick up your scent. You're going to die. You have nowhere to go. So to say that I'm offended by that. First, it pisses me off because Jeff Meldrum, John Vetternagle, and Les Stroud, I admire these men.
Sure.
They're friends. To say that, colleagues, blows my mind that I have an association with these great. They have taught me, and I feel so gifted or blessed, or I don't know what the word is. They came out and worked and trusted me. To think that I would take and do that and lie and cheat to those men, like there's no words. That's calling me a liar and calling me a hoaxer is one thing. Saying that I lie and hoax, those great men, mentors of mine, men that I will always admire and respect, and that have taught me so much. It's kind of painful.
Sure.
Because it's stupid. It's ridiculous. If I took the person who was complaining about that out there, if I took his chump ass out there, he'd go home crying like a little girl.
Well,
So
I will say this, that based on what you're saying right now, and there is no doubt in my mind that number one, it would be impossible to pull that off, especially with a guy like Les Stroud, because they're aware of what's going on around them. If it were a person, they would have known it ahead of time. It would have been obvious, and that's not the case. So we can put that to rest. That's not the case. It's what they're experiencing out there, guys, are Bigfoot. Period. I mean, I 100% believe Todd. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, I had my reservations when I first saw the photos and everything else, just like everybody else. But I can tell you this: after seeing that documentary, I am much more convinced now than I was, before.
Yeah.
So in fact, I want to kind of move a little forward into the documentary, because beforehand, actually, how do you get all this stuff? I mean, what gives you the idea? I mean, you're out there, you're listed as a skeptic in your own documentary.
Sure.
When does that turn from you being a skeptic to you, okay, this is Bigfoot? What was it that changed that for you?
It's so much profound evidence. This is a long time ago, like way back in 2005, I was a skeptic. But I filmed video 2 and video 3. I was there being guided by men who knew Sasquatch was real, that knew we were in a Sasquatch habitat. And after I filmed those videos, and all that had transpired to get those videos, seeing the tracks, seeing the animal having moved the way no human being can move, it was just like a punch in the face. I felt dizzy. I felt like, almost comparable to being a Christian your whole life, and then somebody proves that Jesus is totally fake. And you'd be stunned. You'd be blown away, Something I'd believed in my whole life, and I was certain there could never be any Sasquatch. It's not possible. I went out there to prove that as a scientist, I went out there to prove they couldn't exist in the ecology. There was no space for them to survive. Sure. Which is simple enough, right? I thought for once and for all, I can prove they don't exist. And when I realized they do exist, it'll never go away. The miracle of that they exist, and the evidence. I mean, especially when you're out there, I've seen tracks. I took a tracker from Texas out on an expedition with me once. This guy was an amazing tracker, trained by Apaches, like really, really good tracker. Could see immediately that he really knew what he was doing. When I took him out and just got him to see one Sasquatch track, he looked at it for about 30 seconds, touched it, looked around, and he said, "Is this creature over there?" I go, "He went that way." He goes, "This is like within an hour." I go, "Yeah, he's probably over there right now." He goes, "Is that what that sound is over there?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Take me home now." I went, "Pardon me?" He goes, "This Sasquatch are real. You didn't fake this. I'm a tracker." He read it like he just knew. Like even though he was a skeptic at first, when he saw the evidence, when you're a tracker, like even when you're a fingerprint expert, as an example, right? Or when you're a gun expert, and you look at a gun and you see it and you, okay, it shoots. This gun would kill people. It's profound evidence. He asked me to take him home, went home, and he just told me on the way home, Sasquatch are real, have a good day. What else do I need to know? He says, you know what? It scares me because that, whatever put that impression in the ground was 700 plus pounds. I went, oh yeah. And that wasn't the big guy. He goes, I believe you.
Right.
And I want to go home, and I'm not coming back to this bloody country because you got big giant primates running around in the bush, and who knows what they can do? Can you tell me? And I go, they don't hurt me, yeah, but what if they don't like me? What if they wanted to hurt me?
Sure.
I'd disappear, and you'd never see the body again.
Right.
You would disappear into nothing. The respect that these primates have from me and First Nations people. Oh my God! Every First Nations. I just found out a new word for Sasquatch. Winchestatunga. It's Nakota, and it means tall person. And you talk to them about Sasquatch, and of course they know it exists. They'll tell you all these things and all their rules, but primarily in the native histories, it's stay away from them. Don't mess with Sasquatch. I know it's a funny term now, but they just stay away from it. Some of them, most of them, even they say if you even see one, don't look at him. Just turn away and give him his space because he's the master of the wilderness. You don't mess with him. Sure. Bad things happen if you do things that upset the Sasquatch. So they stay away from him. And that's a cultural significance I've seen throughout most First Nations cultures. And if those people, the natives that could track, that were so close to nature, much closer than we've ever been, have that reverence and fear for them, then we have to respect that. So, because they're scary. They can be scary. When I used to, I take out other people. I was trying to get my own Jane Goodall happening. So I was taking out other women that were doing really well, very brave. But the first thing they'd tell me is, I have to tell them is, when I take you out, and even I tell this to people I take out on expeditions, if there's the biggest, baddest ass grizzly bear in the world, no problem. Just do what I say and we will be fine. Mountain lions, black bears, moose, no problem. If a Sasquatch comes around and latches on you, there's nothing I can do. Right. I won't even draw my gun because we'll all die. Right. When a Sasquatch comes around, be nice. I have rules that we adhere to that I've learned from primatologists that seem to work very well with Sasquatch. And I adhere to those rules. And if the Sasquatch decides to latch on you and run off, I won't be able to track you. I won't be able to find you. Nobody will. You're completely in the hands of that Sasquatch. I'm sorry, but I pull out a gun and I'll die. And you'll probably die too. The only chance that we live is act peacefully. The only chance that you live if a Sasquatch latches on you and runs off with you is be peaceable and hope he doesn't tear you limb from limb and eat you, because I can't stop it. Right. I can't. And it's maybe it's a terrible thing to say, but when you're out there and you realize how tough they are, they come around in groups. If I pulled out my gun and pointed it at one, I would die. Right. Just pointing my gun at one. They know what guns are. They're highly intelligent. So as soon as I'm aware it's a Sasquatch around, I holster my gun. Everybody puts weapons down and just let what happen is going to happen, because I've seen them throw boulders 200 yards with deadly accuracy. I've seen how fast I was stood off with a Sasquatch 45 yards away from me, and he came. He put himself up against a tree like a sprinter, and he crouched like he was gonna push off that tree at me. And he looked at me and he went, "Go ahead, draw your gun." He kind of gave me a nudge. Go on, draw that fucking gun and see what happens. You know what I did? I put my hands in the air and backed away. Right. And as soon as I put my eyebrows raised like this and I put my hands in the air, I was like, "You want me to leave? I'm leaving." And I backed away. And he was like, he's just like moving his head like this, like, "Damn, I wish you'd gone for that gun, bitch." So the Sasquatch that did not like me in Montana. And I was like, holy shit. Like, because he would have hit me before. I said, "You think you're fast?" And you know what? They also have infrasound. So he could have hit me with infrasound and I'd be on the ground completely incapacitated, because they are very capable of that as well. So sure.
Yeah, and that's actually a great prelude to the next question. And after this one, we're going to kind of change gears a little bit, because we could talk all night long, I guarantee it. But tell me a time when you were really, really scared. When you didn't know. You're very educated. You're very good in the wilderness. You know what's coming. You know what's going to happen. There had to be a time when you didn't know what was going to happen and you were scared. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, there's that famous video that I hate.
Yeah.
It's dramatic. It's that one where I have a flare and I'm screaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Survivor Man. I'm screaming for the Sasquatch. They've kind of surrounded me, and yeah, I always have trouble talking about it, but because it was a horrible. It's not. People say, well, I was kind of having a panic attack. I don't really have panic attacks. I was fighting. I felt like I was fighting for my life because they were blocking me. I was at base camp, and in the morning I was going to be picked up from people down by the road, which was about a kilometer away, 3/4 of a mile, and they were surrounding me so I couldn't get there, and they were staying there, and trying to push me back into the wilderness. And I was done with my expeditions. I didn't want to go back. This is after I'd filmed video 4. So I didn't want to go back to the wilderness, and they were pushing me that way. And you could see that I was flipping out. And so anyways, what people don't know is after that camera, the camera battery died, and my flare burnt out. A Sasquatch latched onto me and started running with me back into the wilderness. I didn't know what the hell he was doing. He actually physically picked me up.
Wow.
And he picked me up in a way that, I'll tell you, was as gentle as he could. It felt like this monster arm had grabbed me and squeezed me into its body. So he was kind of carrying me on the side of his body, and he started to run. And the force of it was just shaking me. But what I did, and all I could do in my mind, I thought this was my last thing to do. So I was willing to break my neck. I was willing to bust my arm to break that hold. And when he realized that I was going to kill myself to get out of that hold, he released me and let me go. So they wanted me back into the wilderness, and I didn't know why. So, and then the next day, I bumped into that grizzly bear, which is in the Call Out Search and Rescue episode on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And the grizzly bear pushed me up a mountain, and then I discovered a holy spot, and I think that's where the Sasquatch were trying to take me. And I've always wanted to have my spiritual animal ritual done. Been wanting it for decades. And then that was an area where I had that spiritual animal ritual done on me. And then, and that's the spot I took last Stroud to in Radium, where there's some very strange logs that are put up against the trees. So, but anyways, I think that's where they were trying to get me, and I wouldn't go there, but the bear convinced me to go back up that hill.
Right.
But that was horrifyingly terrifying. Awful. I think I've had one worse where when I first met the wild bunch, I went into their habitat to film them, and I thought in my previous experiences, when you jump up and show yourself to a Sasquatch, they run away. And that's good, you get them running away, that's what I knew. Well, I showed up in the middle of their habitat, and they didn't run away. They all came around me. And then the big guy came back, like King Kong through the forest. And after that whole, again, this is a big, long confrontation. I'll have it in a book or a documentary or something at one point. But this is where I learned, at one point, eventually, I got up and ran. You don't run from a Sasquatch. Don't run from a Sasquatch. Don't run from a gorilla. Don't run from a chimpanzee. Don't run from a stupid little chihuahua. It'll charge you and attack you.
Right.
And I did that. I ran from a Sasquatch, and they ran me down and smashed me. And then I got up and ran again, and they ran me down and smashed me. Luckily, they're not like a bear where they were going to tear me apart. They basically just ran me down and whacked me in the back, and I fell to the ground. But again, another pretty scary day. But obviously, even when that Sasquatch latched onto me, he didn't want me dead. He could have crushed me with his arm power. I could very easily feel that. That time I was running away from them and they were batting me down, it was hard. Like, they hit me hard. Like, I'm a 240-pound guy. I'm 6'3", and I'm strong. I got played football. I'm a tough guy. So the whack was hard, but coming from a primate that's probably 800 pounds, 8 feet plus tall, believe me, if he was pounding me, I wouldn't have got up from the shot. So he was giving me a good whack in the back, and I was falling down, and anyways, so don't run from the Sasquatch. Right. Don't run from the predator. They're predators. Believe me, they hunt and kill.
Right.
So, yeah, those are 2 pretty scary, bad days that I can remember. So, and the story behind them is much, much more. That's like the most superficial little nothing I can tell you. I can tell you a story, everything that happened, it'll be like hours, but they do some stuff, and they try to teach me lessons. I feel when I take people out on expeditions, we're not out there to learn about them. we're out there to listen to what they're trying to teach us. And when I tell that to people in the beginning, they're kind of like, that sounds weird. But then when we get out there and they see the interactions and the Sasquatch are trying to communicate with us. They're trying to tell us something. And if we could learn something, and that's what we do, and that's what makes my exhibition so exciting, is they learn stuff and they go, oh, is that what he's trying to teach us? And I'm like, yeah, we're so dumb. It took us so long, but we figured it out. So that's the difference between me and what a lot of other people do is I feel like I'm a student of theirs and I'm learning from them because they choose to interact with me and they're always trying to teach me new things and I'm always trying to pick up what they're trying to put down, and that's what I do on expeditions with Sasquatch. That's my thing, learn from them.
Well, I mean, when you're 240 pounds and you get picked up like a football and run through the woods, that would be scary. I imagine I would have been scared as well.
Oh, and I tell you, I've played with guys like Jeff Thomas, Edmonton Eskimo. He's like 6'7" and he's 320 pounds. He's a monster.
Right.
I've wrestled with that guy. I've had that guy throw me around. I mean, he's very, very powerful. One of the most powerful men I've ever seen. This was nothing like that. Like this Sasquatch was moving and changing directions through trees, whipping around, and my body was just like a rag doll. And I'm in good shape. I'm a strong guy. This was like even gorilla power. Sasquatch are twice the size of a gorilla, and I think they're twice as strong. I know that's a bold statement.
Sure.
But after what I've seen, I have to say, honest to God, in my heart, the science and seeing what I've seen them do, I think that they are even more than twice as strong as a gorilla. And you better be scared when people say that. I take people out, I'll show them what Sasquatch have done, and they'll be like, yeah, twice a gorilla couldn't do that. Sure. They are extremely powerful.
Right.
Like,
well, that makes sense. I mean, you look at a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee is smaller than a man, but it's 3 times stronger, 4 times stronger, 5 times stronger. I don't know. It's a lot stronger than a man, and it's small. So imagine, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were, twice as strong as a gorilla. I mean, the primates, these primates are, all primates are built differently and stronger. Some are, I have no doubt in my mind they are twice as strong as a gorilla. There's no question. Especially if you've seen them throw boulders 200 yards. I mean, that's holy cow.
With deadly accuracy.
That's insane.
Like, at least I hope that, because the 4 or 5 times I've had boulders thrown at my head, they've missed me by like 2 or 3 inches when I'm in motion. I sure hope they were trying to miss.
Now, when the log was thrown at you, they didn't miss with that, did they?
No, and that log was gently lobbed at me. Wasn't thrown. Like, I have to admit, gently, as much as you can take an 80-pound log and gently lob it. I think he was probably 30 yards away from me. And, if he threw that thing hard at me, oh my, I wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
And you know what? Every time you say log, I'm like, oh, man, that hurts. That pain has not gone away even years later. It still hurts, but...
Yeah. That's something else that's in a documentary, everybody. You got to see this thing. I mean, seriously, you got to see this documentary because it really is fascinating. It's greatly done. But I do want to kind of switch gears. We've been going now for almost an hour, so I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. And I've been reading reports that you are suing the Canadian government. Tell us about that.
The amount of evidence that myself and my colleagues and just other Bigfoot researchers have been acquiring over the last decades is so insurmountable, so amazing that we, in a court of law, I have no doubt, if we took this evidence to a court of law, we would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Sasquatch exists. Now, the reason this is so important is this discovery, every discovery, all the great discoveries with chimpanzees, gorillas, most species, a biologist, somebody who's, the techie guy that's got the PhD, gets led out into the forest by trackers. Diane Fossey discovered gorillas because her trackers showed her. Every day, if you go look at a gorilla now, a tracker, not the PhD, will take you out and show you the gorillas. I am a tracker in North America. There are no primatologists that work in North America. Why would you? According to science, there's no primates. I am a primate tracker. I track Sasquatch. And what I think I've done, what I know I've done, like in the documentary that you saw, Ed, is I took a PhD out and showed him a Sasquatch. I can do that repeatably. And I've been saying that for 10 years. Don't take my word for it. I will take you out and show you a Sasquatch. I've been saying this to Fish and Wildlife. I've been saying this to biologists, university professors, everywhere. I say it online. And have I been doing it? Well, you saw it in the documentary. You saw it on Survivor Man. I'm sick of being ignored. This species can be discovered. I can take anybody. I'll take Donald Trump out and show him a Sasquatch, but he has less credibility than I do. So that won't do us any good. But
Okay.
so now in the court case,
We don't want to get we don't want to get into politics on here. We don't want.
yeah. I'm sorry for Donald Trump likeness. I don't know much about
Oh,
him. So
my
I didn't-
phone's gonna blow up. Oh, Todd, thanks.
It's all good. It's all good. If we can't deal with controversy,
Yeah,
crap.
Told
But-
you he was
so now-
controversial, didn't I?
So now I can go into the court of law. I have all this evidence, including my videos, including Jeff Meldrum's evidence, including John Bitternagle, what Les Stroud has seen, fingerprints. Jimmy Chilcott's going to show up, like a list of police officers, wildlife biologists, fishery officers that have all, not people that are kind of uncertain about Sasquatch, people that are going to sit down and say Sasquatch are real, period. DNA, unknown primate, couldn't exist. No way this DNA is faked, kind of stuff.
Right.
So when I prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, I expect that Fish and Wildlife will be forced to send a biologist out into the field with me, where I will show that man a Sasquatch. I'm talking crazy time. I'm talking 3 months. I took Jeff Meldrum out for 3 days and he saw a Sasquatch.
Right.
You let me take a biologist out for 3 months, like even Les Stroud, he never did anything more than 6 days with me.
Sure.
Because it was raining for 3 of them.
Right.
So give me 3 months in the field in one of my best research sites, some tough hombre biologist, hopefully who's totally skeptical and says Sasquatch can't exist. And I promise you, he will come back and he will say, I have seen a Sasquatch. I have seen the tracks. I have seen the evidence. I have live interacted with them. I've been gathering data. They exist. Further study is necessary. It can happen that fast.
Sure.
Prove it in the court of law and move to the next step. And this isn't, again, this is all, I had to wait for the documentary to come out because I had to show people, look, I could really take people out and show them a Sasquatch. Jeff Meldrum was no friend of mine before this all started. He came out and had his arms crossed. In fact, on day 2, after I showed him more structures and breaks and stuff, he was looking at me like, is my ticket that you bought me two-way? Because I just want to go home now. He was not convinced. Then he started to see the tracks, live tracks, fresh tracks, apples taken. Then I could see those eyes widening, right? And then he saw the Sasquatch. And, and now biologists can call Jeff Meldrum and say, okay, it's a documentary. Half the time that's bullshit. Dr. Jeff Meldrum from Idaho State University, is that documentary real? And the man will answer precisely as it happened.
Sure.
Todd Standing put that documentary and didn't change a syllable, not a word, nothing. It is absolutely the way it happened. And you have my word on that. I am Dr. Jeff Meldrum. And same thing with Dr. John Bitternagle and other PhDs that I've worked with that are not public, that will come and testify, wildlife biologists, fishery officers. The list goes on and on. So, of course, if this goes to court, I will win. And it's coming to court in the United States. And I'm working on that. There's some stuff going on with that.
Good.
We're going to have a meeting about very soon.
Good.
But, it has to come to the United States because Sasquatch exists in the United States. I've seen them in Montana. I've seen them and filmed them in Washington State. And the most significant piece of Sasquatch evidence that exists probably in the world today was filmed in Northern California.
Right.
That video, as I say, it's impossible to have faked it. Therefore,
Right.
it must be real.
Absolutely.
So, and the evidence is so, can you imagine eyewitnesses that would show up in a court of law?
Well, yeah.
Thousands. I live in British Columbia. A news company went down to Harrison, where John Green used to live and all these Sasquatch researchers are,
Yes.
and just went out to Harrison Lake and started interviewing people. They called me back and they said, we came down here to get people that were going to say, oh, Sasquatch can't exist. They couldn't find any.
Right.
There's like 12 interviews they did, all 12 of them. They put 3 on TV. All these people like, of course Sasquatch are real.
Sure.
Yes, Sasquatch. I've never seen one, but the evidence is so profound. It disgusts us that they're not an accepted species. And this guy's suing the government. Good for him.
Right.
Right? I don't know people.
So-
And they don't know anything about me. But
So-
it's overwhelming. They exist. It's a de facto discovery at this point.
Sure.
Come on.
So the goal is not necessarily to prove they exist, but to get the government to admit they may be there and further study is needed. Is that the goal?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, once I prove it in a court of law, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But at that point, remember, I go to Fish and Wildlife every 6 months with new evidence. I go, hey guys, Todd again. Oh Christ, here's Todd.
It's a bear, Todd. It's a bear again.
No, we don't really want to. Yeah, look at my new Sasquatch. Look, I took a PhD out. Or hey, watch Survivor Man this week because I'm showing him a Sasquatch. You want me to do that for you? Get out of the office, Todd. You're gonna be removed again. Here I'm coming.
Wait. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but does this really happen? Do you go to their office and how does that go? I mean, come on, that's an interesting point. You know, why not go to their office?
Usually the secretary's like, well, Dave's not available right now. I'm like, I just saw Dave. I actually wait outside for Dave to drive up and come in the building. Then I go in the building and I go, so is Dave available? No, he's not here today. Yeah, I just saw him drive in. His vehicle with the license plate. I'll take a picture of him coming into the frickin' building. I just saw him come in. See that? Oh, he's got a meeting. He's busy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You get him to call me, make an appointment. So he doesn't call me anymore. Right. But, you know, there's no documentation of me. They don't write you a letter saying Sasquatch isn't real.
Sure.
But obviously that's their standpoint because let's look at a list of their wildlife indigenous species and they're not on it. So you're telling me they don't exist, right? That's a problem because they do exist and I could show you one. I am an indigenous person and I am an expert tracker in the indigenous, in the Pacific Northwest of North America. And in that region, I can take you out and I can show you Sasquatch. And anybody in Washington or Montana or Oregon or California that wants to take me up on that challenge, bring it. I will get it done. I'll go into a spot. If you think there's Sasquatch there, it usually takes me a day or two. I'll come back and say, there were Sasquatch there or there are Sasquatch there. I'll tell you how it is. You're not going to fool and fake me. You don't fake a good tracker.
Right.
And it's amazing that Sasquatch are doing so many things that are the same. The wood knocking, the upside down trees, the tree breaks, the structures, the behavior. It's incredible that they live all these distances apart. But I've never had an interaction or found proof of a Sasquatch in Florida or in Texas, other than in Texas I read I was given a Texas Ranger gave me a little book that the Texas Ranger wrote back in the early 1900s about Sasquatch. He gave me a book that the Texas Rangers read about Sasquatch, and I read it. And I was like, he's like, what do you think? And I read it for a few minutes. I was like, this man knows everything I know about Sasquatch. He's talking about the tracks, how they line up, how big they are, how they move, sounds they make. And I'm like, you can't just make this up. It's like somebody telling me stuff about gorillas, and I study gorillas, and I'm like, this is exactly gorilla behavior. You're not going to fool that, right? Sure. So then they're like, why don't you come track Sasquatch and learn about them? And I go, well, because Texas is brand new terrain. I have to learn how to take me years before I could track on this substrate and learn about the animals and the species. Sure. It's Pacific Northwest I do really well in.
Right.
So,
well, I was impressed with the trackway you found in your documentary, the trackway that Meldrum's creature made. You know, that was because it wasn't where it's odd because and again I hate giving, I don't want to give anything away about I want people to see it, but it was odd to me, and what gave it credibility. Let me rephrase it. What gave it credibility to me was it wasn't where he thought it was, but once you showed him where you found it, he was like, oh yeah, now that makes sense, you know. So it's not like he said, go down to the creek bed and look for the tracks. You know, you found them in a different area, farther back, and it was interesting. I mean, which would also, I think, would also make it bigger than probably what he thought it was at the time. You know.
Yeah.
So something farther away would obviously be bigger. You know. So yeah.
You should. You know, it's not in the documentary. I just recorded Jeff Meldrum. He did a sit-down interview, and then when he took his mic off, I pulled the mic out of my camera, and now my camera is set for a microphone. So when you pull the microphone out, it's no sound.
Oh.
So we were filming, but I didn't know the mic was off. I'll tell you, there's a couple shots of Jeff, how giddy he was. Oh my God. His eyes were big. He was like, it was a Sasquatch. And he was so excited. I mean, I love the guy to death. He's a real life Boy Scout. He actually is a Boy Scout leader. The man is so good and wonderful. Like, he doesn't swear. He's just wholesome and amazing. And to see him like Like, he actually asked me to take the camera off him for a moment so he could catch his breath, because he was just trying to, like, the man's been looking for Sasquatch his whole life. He just saw a live interaction with one, and then I witnessed it. I mean, he was in profound shock and amazement. It was, it was wonderful, and this is what I do on expeditions with people too. It is amazing to take people out and get them these experiences, because they've believed in or hoped Sasquatch was real their whole lives. Now I do this. I take people out on expeditions, and most of the time, I have like a 95% success rate where people will have a live interaction with Sasquatch, which is unbelievable almost. But I do it. And the feeling that they get and the excitement that they have inspires me so deeply. I don't know, and teaching them about tracking and teaching them about how to survive, and we'll sit down and eat these wild berries, and they love, people are loving it. And I think that's what Sasquatch can do, is Sasquatch will inspire us to get back to nature. And as we all know, in nature is the preservation of the world. Right. So I think my thing when I go out, my paradigm to beat, my thought in my mind used to be, I'm out here to help you, Sasquatch. I'm out here to save you. Right. And now, in the situation the world's in, and seeing who they are and what they can do and how they change people's lives, my thought is, please come and help us, Sasquatch. We need your help.
Sure.
And
sure.
I know that might sound weird.
No, I get it.
Yeah. And I feel after taking, like this year, I took out no PhDs. I took out just good people, good men and women that were awesome people. I took out 7 people. I made 7 new best friends. I love the people I took out on expedition this year. And I tell you, all of them were like, it almost came to tears of happiness with what they experienced and the joy. Because to learn about Sasquatch, you learn about the wilderness. They're masters of the wilderness. And so all these people came out and they got into the heart and soul of the wilderness. They were on vacation, loving it, hard work, tracking, scary, backcountry, wild animal, real. But since they got into it so well, and then they had a Sasquatch encounter, it was such a wonderful experience. It even inspired me. Like, it rejuvenated me to be teaching to see somebody pick up a little wild strawberry and go, oh my God, I've never had a strawberry like that. Can I sit down and eat them for an hour? I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Right.
You know, it's such a wonderful experience to get people back to nature and experience Sasquatch that I was never going to do it again. It was my distributor that forced me to take people out. Oh, you got to take some regular people out. So they forced me to do it. And it's one of the best experiences of my life, and I can't wait to do it again in 2018. So I'm loving it.
Well, that actually leads me to the final question, which is, you know, you got this great documentary out, which can be found, by the way, everywhere. He says, you know, I mean, you can find it anywhere. Just look up Discovering Bigfoot. Yeah, you'll find it.
Yeah.
You've got the court case, which I'm assuming is pending or going on right now. I mean, I guess, where is it?
We just need to get. The biggest news will be when I get it into court.
Sure.
So right now, I'm going through the legal stuff, and I'm proving standing. When a judge looks at it and says, okay, he has standing to take this to court, it's a viable court case. And I'm working very hard on this. I'm spending thousands of dollars. It's a fortune to do this.
Sure.
But I'm taking it very seriously, because I tell you, if I get this to court, I am going to win. I can't lose.
I think you will. I've said 100 times, if this were to go to the court of law, it's impossible for this many people to see the same thing. People don't know each other. They don't hear from each other. And they see the same thing. You know, their encounters are so similar. You know, something is there. You know, so
same time, same movements, and the natives know about it. And oh my God,
yeah,
it'll be. I think Fish and Wildlife are terrified right now.
Sure.
I think the Minister of Environment here in Canada is biting his nails like this, because I'm telling you, if this goes to court, boy, the eyewitnesses alone are going to blow. But the evidence, like, I have strong evidence that will be presented. Like, basically, Jeff Meldrum will go sit on the stand, show his evidence, and I'm pretty much going to go, do you need anything more?
Right.
Like, case over. You know what I mean? Okay,
drop
well, let's
mic,
look
walk
at
away.
stuff. You know what I mean? Because Meldrum is so amazing what he's done. He's such a hero, boy.
Sure.
People,
oh, yeah.
wow.
I really like him. I really respect him, and I was honored to have an opportunity to have him on the show, as well as, you know, when we were at the International Bigfoot Conference a couple years ago, we had breakfast together one morning. So it was, look, you know, Jeff's a great guy, and again, I don't want to put I'm not saying anything, but I can tell you this. I saw the look in his eye on that documentary, and I watched him gleam and like a little kid, like, you know, and you're right, there was no audio, but I knew what was going on, you know, and it was neat. It was really cool to watch, and I was happy for him. So,
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
so okay, so we got the documentary. We've talked about the court case. What is next for Todd Standing?
I'm going to basically celebrate my Christmas. I'm saving up my pennies. I'm trying to take a week off work because I'm going to blow the world away with what's going to happen in January. In January, people are going to, like, I've been smashing down doors. What I've done recently has been very impressive. I'm doing the biggest thing I've ever done by 10 times, and you know what it is, Ed, but we won't talk about it right now, because when it comes out in mid-January, what's going to happen, our next step, like, the court case is huge and enormous and big. We are taking it up to such a new level. I'm scared.
Sure.
I'm scared.
And you know how many people are going to call me now and say, "What is it, Ed? What is it?" Todd said you know. So I'm going to just let everybody know I really don't know, so don't call me on it.
Yeah, Ed's neck deep in it. So but it's going to be fun, and you got to admit, Ed, this is going to shake up the world.
No, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy about it. Yeah, I think it's going to be cool. I really do. And you know, we're gonna, you know, it's going to be interesting. You know, and by the way, I don't know if anybody knows this or not. Todd, you and I have never met. You know, we've never really talked or anything like that. But I don't generally have a beard. I actually grew my beard out today just for you. All right. I was hoping I could get mine longer than yours, but I lost. So you beat me on that.
Oh, yeah. It looks good on you, though. I like the beard.
Yeah. Well,
I would like your opinion, though, since you know.
Sure.
Would you agree with me that what I'm going to do in January is going to shake up the whole world? Do you think that's an accurate statement?
I think it's an extremely accurate statement, and it's going to be interesting. And I am certain that it's going to make a change in the way people view the Sasquatch, period. You know, so I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. And you know, we're definitely going to talk a lot. You know, you're going to keep me in the loop, and you know, it's going to be fun. You know, it's going to be fun. So.
If people understand how crazy I am, I'm the guy that fought for species protection. I had gathered signatures and had it all voted on, and I'm fighting this court case here in British Columbia. I think you gotta say, when Todd Standing says this is going to be scary and this is huge and I love it, it's going to shake things up.
Right. Well,
we're fighting for it right now.
It's going to be awesome. Todd, listen, I know you got to get to work, but when we're done here, I don't want you to hang up right away. I want you to hang tight for just a moment, and I'll tell you why in a second after we get off the air. But let me just say, number one, Todd, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I thank you for taking the time to come on, and I know we had a little delay because I had some equipment difficulties and we were running behind. So I appreciate you hanging tight and helping and working me through that. But I do got to tell everybody, make sure you go to the ECBRO fan page on Facebook. Check out the conference. It's going to be held in Virginia in June, end of June, beginning of July. I will actually be there speaking myself, and I might just have a whole lot of topics coming up that I have something to talk about. So we won't get too far into that yet, but we'll see what happens. But I'll be there. Make sure you're there too. But definitely go to the page. Check out the ECBRO and what they got going on with the Virginia conference. But look up Daniel Benoit, and it's not Benoit, it's Benoit. Just people can't speak French, I guess. I don't know. All right, guys. With that, we are out.